Dr. Manhattan, DC's god all-powerful, and a knockoff of the Blue Man Group. He started off as just your average, everyday nuclear physicist. But then, like always happens with these type of things, he was involved in a freak accident of a radioactive particle test. Those tend to happen quite a bit. Though while Peter Parker transforms into Spider-Man or Bruce Banner transforms into the Hulk, John Osterman turned into a literal god. He was the most powerful being in the Watchmen universe, the creator of the New 52, pivotal for Flashpoint, one of the most powerful beings in the DC universe. But maybe he actually is the most powerful being in the DC universe? Is this guy truly God? Well, today that's what we're gonna find out. Can we get this guy some pants or something? Yeah, that's better. Dr. Manhattan, also known as John Osterman, was just your average physicist until he became a being with god-like powers. His origin story starts in Watchmen, a classic series that will really make you question your own existence. In this story, John Osterman was working in his laboratory when he got caught in an intrinsic field subtractor, which is just a fancy way of saying he was disintegrated and killed. But then he was reassembled again on a quantum level, giving him god-like powers. So what are Dr. Manhattan's powers, you might be asking? Good question. Well, for starters, he can manipulate matter and energy, create and destroy life, and even manipulate time itself. Basically, he's the ultimate cheat code. He can teleport anywhere in the world instantly, which means he never has to deal with traffic. And he's virtually indestructible, so you can forget about trying to fight him. He can create objects out of thin air, he can even raise the dead. That's literally just scratching the surface here. Dr. Manhattan's powers also extend to his sense of time. He has a complete understanding of time as a linear concept, meaning he can see the past, present, and future all at once. This makes it easy for him to predict events and make strategic decisions. In other words, he's always the smartest guy in the room, always multiple steps ahead of everyone around him. And then another thing that makes Dr. Manhattan truly powerful is actually his complete detachment from his emotions. Believe it or not, he doesn't feel happiness, he doesn't feel love, he doesn't even feel hatred or anger, he just doesn't feel. And because of that, it actually allows him to make decisions and take actions that would be impossible for pretty much any hero in the DC universe. And sometimes that's not always the best thing. Remember how Manhattan has a completely different view of time than we do? How he can see time as an actual concept and perceive the past, present, and future all at the same time? But how he can exist in all time, everywhere, all the time, literally being in every timeline at once? Well, this allows him to play out alternate timelines, see the future and the past, and how it all plays out. And not just that, but actually allows him to manipulate different events and change the course of history. Like he could prevent Jor-El from dying in Krypton's explosion, that sort of thing. He can change the outcome of any fight or battle, even change the course of your own personal life. Obviously, this makes him insanely powerful in DC, but it doesn't just stop there. Because he doesn't just manipulate events within the timeline. Manhattan can actually manipulate whole timelines, which leads us to Flashpoint and the New 52. Flashpoint is a massive comic book crossover event that has some pretty major implications for the DC universe. In the story, The Flash, Barry Allen travels back in time to save his mother's life. But in doing so, he accidentally creates a new timeline where the world is drastically different from what he remembers. Superman was captured by the US government as a baby, Bruce Wayne was shot in that alley, and Thomas Wayne became Batman. Atlantis and Themyscira were at war with each other, the world is basically a shit show. and so Flash tries to reverse it and set everything right. But that didn't really work out that way. Instead, the New 52 was formed, a major reboot for DC Comics and their continuity. A lot of characters had their histories and backstories altered and rewritten. A lot of the major events and storylines for DC were just wiped out, and Superman stopped wearing his underwear on the outside of his pants. Only turns out none of this was the Flash at all. He didn't cause any of this. It was actually Dr. Manhattan. He was the cause behind Flashpoint, and casually was able to destroy that whole universe. He was the one who managed to remove 10 years from the main DC timeline and start the New 52 universe, basically using it as his own petri dish and science experiment as he explored the nature of time and all its causalities. Of course, this couldn't last for forever, and when it came to an end, a lot of unintended consequences came along with it. And that's Doomsday Clock right there. The events of Doomsday Clock take place in the aftermath of the DC Rebirth event, which saw the return of Wally West and all the other characters who had previously been erased from DC continuity. Things are beginning to set themselves back to the proper balance of things, and it's revealed that Dr. Manhattan is the one responsible for all these changes to the DC timeline, the puppet master behind the scenes, playing everybody and manipulating everything. And obviously our heroes aren't too happy with this. They don't really like being played like that, so they try and stop Manhattan from manipulating their world. And Manhattan basically beats half the heroes with just a wave of his hand. He easily absorbed the Green Lantern's powers. Magic is just a statistical anomaly to him that he can easily manipulate. Literally no hero could stand in his way. I mean, sure, they tried, but they all failed. Because, of course they did. This is a literal god they're facing down. And not like how Wonder Woman is a goddess, or Superman is just as powerful as a god. Literally a god. Capital G kind of god. Basically, no one could beat him. Only way Doomsday Clock ended was with Manhattan realizing the error of his ways, and restoring the memories and histories of all the different characters who had been affected, effectively ending the New 52 continuity. But you want to know how he did this? Well, he took the DC Metaverse, a single unique universe, and destroyed the whole thing, then restarted and kicked it off again, this time without him intervening. He ultimately decided to leave the DC universe altogether, believing it was better to leave it alone to heal on its own. But this wasn't even the end for Dr. Manhattan. There's always a bigger proverbial fish in the pond, or in the comics, a bigger, more plot-protected fish. And this one just so happened to be the Batman who laughs. Now, this isn't the original Dr. Manhattan, let's just make that clear. Instead, this takes place in Dark Knight's death metal, and is instead a Batman version of Dr. Manhattan. A Batman-Hattan. Still, it shows how powerful any Dr. Manhattan can be. Basically what happens is that there are all these dark and twisted versions of Batman from the Dark Universe. They're all evil and disturbed, but the worst one out of all of them, and their leader, is the Batman who laughs. Well, Wonder Woman killed this one, but it wasn't the end for him. Nah, see, he's always got contingencies on contingencies on contingencies. He is the Batman after all. And one of his contingencies was he found a Bruce Wayne out there in the multiverse who came into contact with the comedian's button and had decided to study it, building an intrinsic field generator of his own. Well, while he was in the middle of experimenting, the Batman who laughs locked him in the machine, with the resulting accident giving Bruce powers similar to Dr. Manhattan. After Bruce was able to reform his body months later after the accident, the Batman Who Laughs lobotomized him before he could gain omnipotence, and then stored him away for a rainy day. And now, his loyal lieutenants, along with some surgical help from some evil Alfreds, were able to put the Batman Who Laughs brain inside the body of Bruce Wayne, who was a being of pure energy. They were able to resurrect him, and he even got a portion of Dr. Manhattan's powers along the way. So now, Batman Who Laughs has the power of Dr. Manhattan, becoming the Darkest Knight. And even though this was a filtered down or inferior version of the original Dr. Manhattan, it was still enough power to attract the attention of Perpetua. And now, who's Perpetua, you might be asking? Well, she's one of the hands from the greater Omniverse. She was the first creator of the multiverse and the mother of the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, and now the World Forger. And you know what? Perpetua, the literal creator of the multiverse and the Darkest Knight, fight. And this Batman, with the powers of Dr. Manhattan, is able to beat her. And then Wonder Woman shows up. She's now amped up with the powers of Dr. Manhattan too, which, if you're wondering, is just crisis and connective energy, the same stuff that's used to create multiverses. And she's able to beat the Darkest Knight in a fight that spans from the creation of the multiverse to the very end of the multiverse. Whoa, that is a lot. And it basically indicates that at his best, Dr. Manhattan could be just as powerful as Perpetua, the being who created the DC multiverse. So literally gods on gods on gods. If you're playing Mortal Kombat, he's the final boss for sure. And if you ever run into him in a fight, you gotta bring your A game, and you'll definitely still lose all the same. Because Dr. Manhattan is easily one of the most powerful beings in the DC multiverse. That's for sure. But what do y'all think? Sound off in the comments down below. I know you're gonna have thoughts and feelings on this one for sure. If you stuck around this long and made it to the end of the video, that's amazing. Thank you so much for watching and for supporting us. And if you want to go subscribe, well, go subscribe. You're going to see more videos like this one every single week. I'll see y'all then. I'll see y'all next time.